feels like an act if you yawn at the beginning of the show. I feel like.
I'm not bored of the show. It's just like I yawn. I've been fighting. We've been trying new sleep strategies, which includes the main strategy that used to get us to sleep, and so I find myself like good old fashioned tired, not like adult who's done something like burning the candles at both ends tired, but just like
normal human tired.
Not nearly slept enough. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing, and so but I'm not tired now. I've been whacking out coffee. That's why. Did you respond to that suggestion that we order, if we can, on Amazon, a new decanter for the new coffee machine that's still in the box that you wouldn't let me trade?
Respond, but you can try it. Yeah.
But I think we need 2 coffee makers going. Don't you? You don't think?
We could use it. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we would drink the coffee.
I'm gonna do that. So
I think I drink more than a pot a day by myself. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No. It's same here. Same here. I want to start. Okay. So we've hit a new area here with our public Discord, Alice, where the Democrats are on to.
You're still playing the song, you know.
Oh, is it back there? It's like very faint.
Did you not mean to be playing it?
Do you hear it loud?
I mean, I hear the song in the background faintly. Is that your intention?
You can barely hear it.
Are you going to play it the whole show?
Hold on.
Now it's stopped.
Now we have your air conditioner on your computer.
Oh, was that the idea? We were just going to do the whole show over a bed of
May not be a bad
music.
idea. So, here's the thing. That now these guys have gone full throw in everything. I mean, it is absolutely true now. Everybody in Washington, D.C. who's on the left or hates Trump has lost their minds. And we've got now today audio of John Kelly. Last week there was John Milley. You know, Donald Trump, he wanted to attack everybody. And now he's a fascist, which is very editorializing and really diminishes the credibility of the rest of the accusations when you have to tack that on.
Well, I don't think, did we even talk yesterday? I don't think we had even discussed this yet yesterday. I think you and I talked about it offline, about the Atlantic story as well.
I don't know if we did talk about it on the air.
I don't think we did talk about it on the air.
Well, let me start with the military guys.
Start with the military
and then we'll get to everybody else. So Milley said a few days ago, yes, Trump is unstable and whatever, and he's also a fascist, which is like which he's trying to tell us that Trump's actual political ideology is fascism, you know, authoritarian, brutal authoritarianism. Okay. So now John Kelly now says, okay, Trump is not only hates all of the veterans and especially the dead ones, but we had to stop him doing everything because he's terrible, and he's a fascist, and he's like Hitler, and he loved Hitler.
Hitler's generals.
Yes, he loved Hitler and Hitler's generals.
Yes.
Which, and these people just lose themselves, you know, all the hate because, and here's John Kelly.
He would he commented more than once that, you know, that Hitler did some good things too, and of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
So what would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
Well, I tell him that. I said, you know, sir, first of all, you should never say that. But if you knew what Hitler was all about from the beginning to the end, everything he did was in support of his racist, fascist life, philosophy, so that nothing he did you could argue was good. It was certainly not done for the right reason, and but he would occasionally say that.
What would he say when you would lay that out to him?
He just, that would be the end of the conversation usually.
In the history of conversations that didn't happen, I would say that's up there.
Yes.
And you can tell by the way he's responding to the questions that the reporter is asking, who, like, kind of props to the reporter because they did, like, press on the questions. You could tell that he was looking to really only say, like, oh yeah, Trump used to praise Hitler all the time. And the reporter's like, so what did you say when he said that? And he's like, that he didn't expect to have to answer that. You could tell by the way he answered. Well, I told him Hitler was bad and racist and fascist.
Right. And and do you think that he felt in that moment that he had to explain to the president that Hitler was racist and fascist and not good? Do you think Donald Trump, working with Michael Cohen all those years, working with all the people he was with all these years and decades, do you think it was like a well-kept secret that he would always be on about Hitler? You think Sheldon Adelson liked Trump's Hitler takes? You know,
I mean,
there's no Trump. First of all, Trump doesn't. He knows that Hitler was a racist and bad for Jewish people and was bad for stuff. Now, there's a chance he really liked the look of the army and thought blitzkrieging was really a hell of a way to, run an infantry. There's a chance, but this makes no sense whatsoever.
I just can't picture. That's not like a riff that he generally does. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe next week at his rally he'll pull out the actually not all the things.
He did a lot of good things.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. So,
but that's just not one that I've ever heard him even venture near at any of his rally. The guy doesn't seem to talk about Hitler much.
No.
Other people compare him to Hitler an awful lot. And that's what I find really fascinating about this new thing that they're trying, which is in the last 2 weeks of the election. They're like, for an October surprise, this is going to be huge. We're going to call him Hitler.
Right.
And a bunch of people, a bunch of journalists and commentators and stuff, especially the super anti-Trump ones, were posting things like, I can't believe it's not a bigger news story that one of our leading presidential candidates thinks Hitler was great. And it's because nobody believes it anymore because you guys have been comparing him to Hitler for a decade and none of it's turned out to be true. And the other piece of it is, too, is that your case for Trump being Hitler, when you say somebody's like Hitler, what you mean is that's a shorthand for they're a big bad. They're the worst person. They're the worst thing that there is, right? It's like the equivalent of, I assume, in the Middle Ages or whatever, saying that somebody's like Genghis Khan or something, right?
Well,
It's this is the really big bad guy, right? So if you say somebody's Hitler, you're saying they're the worst ever. But then they turn around and the next sentence out of their mouth is, and J.D. Vance is worse.
Right.
So, how can I take you seriously that Trump's the worst thing to ever happen in the world and he's just like Hitler? If you're going to tell me that J.D. Vance, a totally ordinary person from Ohio, is, actually worse than Hitler.
Well, yeah, and also...
I'm just, confused by it.
They do this, and it's the same way. They can't control themselves. They can't just stop at where it might seem plausible. They have to be too cute. Mm-hmm. They have to be too cute. Just like with, E. Jean Carroll, Mm-hmm. And he accosted me, and he grabbed me by the... It's like, oh, really? Just like the... extra Hollywood tape. He literally, they can't help do it. It's always the extra thing. Oh, and he loved, he was a fascist. You have the Hitler anecdote and be worried about it a little bit. Don't be coordinated with the other guy. It's like, how? Okay, why don't you guys just micro target this to Nikki Haley voters rather than making asses of yourselves?
And then
just so you know, it's a military guy. The various military guys. It's like all the people who hated Trump, who are out on Trump, and are saying no, are saying absolutely, yep, of course, yeah, I didn't want to tell you, and everybody had to wait till now. Trump did all this stuff, was mean to the dead girl, of Mexican descent, etc. Wasn't it? And there's no truth to any of this stuff. It's not him. Just say he's a loud dickhead, and that's fine. That'll work. He says crude stuff sometimes. Okay? But his personal life, the way he's comported himself, has been a whole shitload better than Joe Biden. Okay? Donald Trump has done nothing.
Also, even if you don't like his personal life, even if you're not for, the divorces or the, Marla Maples or whatever, he sure was a better president than Joe Biden.
Well, yes.
I think that's pretty hard to work around at this point, which I think should be the primary thing for most people voting for a president. But this Trump is Hitler thing, acting like this is some sort of big deal. I can't believe this isn't on the front page of every newspaper. If somebody said that Kamala Harris was praising Hitler, that would be on the front page of every newspaper. Well, but would it
Right.
though? Because no one would believe that it's true that Kamala Harris. I also, by the way, don't believe that Kamala Harris goes around praising Hitler in private.
No.
Like, I don't believe that almost anyone does.
No.
And certainly not
But-
most people who are in a high level of American politics.
No, but her, I mean, she's right in on this, obviously.
Now, let's listen.
So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within. And even
So obviously that is.
They're trying to set up this whole.
It's a campaign. It's a entire symphony. There's this. He's not. He's going to turn the military on you, which is the first time we've had a bunch of, I think, American candidates actually claim to be credibly claiming that that person's going to be an authoritarian. He's going to train the guns on you. The enemy from within. When he talks about the enemy from within, he's talking about saboteurs like Adam Schiff, who's a fucking enemy from within, as a matter of fact.
Oh, right. Or how about the one in your administration that sold a bunch of intelligence to the Iranian regime to undermine our ally in the Middle East? I mean, like that?
The only enemy from within this administration cares about is Trump. That's it. The guy who's about to spill the apple cart. And it's so weird that so many people are all in. All these establishment types are all in.
Well, the other thing that's funny, too, is they, like, openly fantasize about turning the military onto American civilians, too, like, all the time. Every time the gun rights conversation comes up and people says, no, like, the Second Amendment is designed so that people can use their guns and their right to bear arms in case of tyranny so that they can fight off tyranny from the government. They go, oh, yeah, well, the government has F-15s and they're going to, the government has nukes. They're going to nuke you. Like, okay, guys, like... When a tank rolls over your house, I'm gonna they talk about sending the military on to American civilians constantly.
Yes.
I mean, it's fascinating because, and I know that I've made a habit of saying this, and it's probably boring to people at some point, but everything with the left is projection.
Yeah.
They talk about Trump using the Justice Department against his enemies, and they're showing up at your school board meetings, putting you on FBI watch lists. They talk about Donald Trump using the military to attack his enemies, and they fantasize constantly about using the military to, like, seize guns or, put down independent groups or whatever. They love that stuff.
Well, yeah, they talk about
And
Donald Trump
they
using
love
the
everything.
justice system as well. This is Biden last night. This is a beautiful one. Beautiful.
This is a guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill someone who he believes to be a threat to him.
By the way, how is nobody's 25th amendmenting this guy right now?
Yeah,
You
no,
can't say that as the commander in chief. You can't say this about your political opponent who got shot already.
Well, and then their response was they had a Biden staffer run out and anonymously tell newspapers when people asked about this statement was, oh, don't worry about it. No one's listening to him and that anymore anyway. Like his own staffers. Nobody.
Right.
This is
right. This
questionable who's running the United States right now.
So, first of all, Mike Johnson, if the election's over and Trump wins, Mike Johnson should impeach Biden.
Right away.
Right away. Absolutely.
I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up. Politically lock him up.
First of all, he just said we got to lock him up. As the guys in commentary made a good point, that doesn't he not talk about all the federal cases because he's not going to discuss an ongoing case.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to lock him up, just so you know.
Yeah.
We have to
And
lock him
it's
up.
coming out that, is the guy's name Nathan Wade? Is that his name?
Yes.
Um,
Letitia James's dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
but
not Letitia
I don't want to get
James,
off of this.
Fonnie Willis, but he's been meeting with the Justice Department too, and that this has all been totally orchestrated by the Biden regime. The only difference between Biden and Kamala at this point is that Biden is too out of it to realize that he's saying it out loud and that he's not supposed to be saying that they're using the Justice Department to try and lock
He's
up
been to the
Trump.
White House a whole bunch of times. So is she. But I want to. There's part of this too. I want to add.
Is a threat to him. I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We got to lock him up. Politically lock him up.
And then he adds at the end, politically lock him up. No, that's not a metaphor that anybody knows. Politically lock him up. That's not one. The fact is, you said we got to lock him up. You mean we got to lock him up, and you're trying to lock him up as we speak.
Right.
It's like
Yes.
This
You're literally
administration,
doing it.
this administration and their allies is the most corrupt administration in the history of this country, and one of the most corrupt on the earth right now. These people are freaking dirt bags. And when he said he's going to get rid of every civil servant, hey, awesome. Get rid of
Yeah,
them all.
that's great. You don't have to convince me to vote for him. I'm already going to vote for him.
Which is to say that all of this, they didn't, I think that they know, I think that at least the adults who are Democrats know that this is a weird moonshot and it's going to look desperate. And I don't think they wanted to do this, but I think that this series of Hallie Jackson questions today
And Kamala Harris's
answers.
responses.
This is why this is happening.
If you win, it is entirely possible that Congress will be controlled by Republicans. So what specific concessions would you be willing to make in order to get something done on abortion access as soon as possible?
Well, first of all, look at what has happened since the Dobbs decision came down. A decision that is a direct result of the fact that Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention they would undo the protections of Roe. They did as he intended, and now in 20 states we have Trump abortion bans, which some make no exception for rape or incest, which criminalize health care providers in a state like Texas, prison for life for doctors and nurses if they provide reproductive care. And where we have seen this issue on the ballot, to your point about elections, from red states to blue states, when freedom is on the ballot, the American people vote for freedom, regardless of the party they are registered to vote with. We have seen that. And I know that there are members of the United States Congress who are well aware that their constituents are in favor of the very fundamental principle that a woman should be able to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
She thinks that's it.
So is a question of pragmatism then, what concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example, is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions when we're talking about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body.
To Republicans like, for example, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who would back something like this on a Democratic agenda if, in fact, Republicans control Congress, would you offer them an olive branch, or is that off the table? Is that not an option for you?
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals because we can go on with a variety of scenarios. Let's just start with a fundamental fact. A basic freedom has been taken from the women of America. The freedom to make decisions about their own body. And that cannot be negotiable, which is that we need to put back in the protections of Roe v. Wade. And that is it.
But what if you can't do that? What if you can't get that passed and you want to save lives in Florida and in Texas and in Georgia? What do you do at
I'm
that
not
point?
going to go down that rabbit hole with you right now. Because right now,
it's a question that's out
Now's
there.
a good
because
idea.
it's not a
Now would
guarantee
be
that
the time.
Democrats will win control of Congress.
well, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that we do.
If you
So, no exemptions. No exceptions.
Yeah, so Catholic hospitals, everybody, they all have to do. Or she's not interested in religious exemption. She's not interested in any olive branch to Republicans. I mean, this gives you a hint as to how she
Well, right.
would govern. Is she's a vapid extremist, which sounds like a contradiction, but it's not, because she has zero fundamental understanding of the issues and the nuance of the issues, and making compromises and working with other people to achieve what she wants to get done, which frankly I don't want her to get done, so it's fine with me. But she doesn't have any like real understanding of the underlying issue. She just goes out here and says like, nope, fundamental right of women control their own body. It's Roe. I'm not going to discuss that. No, I'm not going to. She has no.
Can I ask you a question, Ellis?
Yes.
It's Roe. It's Roe. Didn't she go to law school? Shouldn't she be able to expound a little on what Roe is?
Yeah, and I mean, most law school students will tell you that actually in the modern day, abortion rights are governed more by Casey than by Roe. But
regardless,
I mean, like,
you think she can tell you what Casey is?
I mean, she did go to law school. I'm thinking probably.
Doesn't matter. She could. Right now is her chance.
But even like when she got asked about Roe before, and they said like Roe only went to viability. Like, is that what week are you comfortable banning abortions at? And she was like, just Roe. We're not changing any. Like, she doesn't have, or she doesn't seem to have any understanding of the complexity of the issue at all.
Sorry. Sure. I don't even know.
Do you believe that
Here we go.
Very broadly speaking.
Hold on.
On the question of your beliefs, what you believe in, let me ask you this question very broadly speaking here.
Sure.
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming care in this country?
I believe we should follow the law. I mean, I think you're probably pointing to the fact that Donald Trump's campaign has spent tens of millions of dollars.
They're trying to define you on this.
Yes,
I'm asking you to define yourself, though. Just broadly speaking, what is your value? Do you believe they should have that access?
I believe that people, as the law states, even on this issue about federal law, that is a decision that doctors will make in terms of what is medically necessary. I'm not going to put myself in the position of a doctor, but let's also understand that Donald
We're just asking you to put yourself in the position of a human being.
Or in the position of president.
Sure.
I mean, like, who's going to be responsible for executing the law?
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming?
Let me keep going here.
Trump is running tens of millions of dollars in ads to
let me tell you,
talk about two cases.
Trump doesn't believe that you should do sex change operations on prisoners. Okay?
Or on children. Or a bunch of other things.
To distract from the fact that his policy and plan is also to take away the Affordable Care Act, which provides health care for tens of millions of people in our country. That his plan is to undo the $35 a month cap on insulin, that it impacts millions of seniors in our country. That his plan is to do away with the $2,000, which would mean giving and big corporations and on the back. So let's not get distracted by the issues that, to your point from the introductory point you raised, people want to know that their president has a plan to make their life better. And that includes bringing down the cost of living. It includes dealing with prescription medication costs. It includes addressing the housing crisis and affordable housing crisis in our country. It includes supporting our small businesses, investing in America.
It is such a freaking insult. And I understand, you just answer the questions you want to answer, but you have to answer some question. Some question, right?
Yeah. Where's the one where she
I know
really
that Joe Biden is not on the ballot. I understand that. But the reason that you are at the top of the ticket is because he dropped out of this race. And so I want to ask you, and it was largely because of that debate performance back in June. You defended him in the days before and in the days after as you were campaigning for another 4 years for President Biden. Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time?
Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
And you never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely...
But that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
What do you think?
Why did you show up here and he didn't show up here?
For president of the United States. Joe Biden is not. And
I mean,
my
he
presidency
was.
will be about bringing a new generation of leadership to America that is focused on the work that we need to do to invest in the ambitions and aspirations of the American people.
It's a judgment question. That's why I ask. Can the American people trust you in these moments, even when it's maybe uncomfortable for Americans to level with Americans in that way? So that's why I ask. And it sounds like what you're saying is you feel like you never saw anything like that from President Biden.
I have worked with Joe Biden, hours and hours and hours over these 4 years, whether it be in the Situation Room or the Oval Office. Joe Biden is the one who was able to bring NATO together during a crisis where, for the first time in 70 years, Europe saw and has seen war. Joe Biden has done the work that has been about being a leader.
Why did Europe see war? I don't understand.
On what we have done to fix so much of what has been broken in terms of the economy because of Donald Trump's mismanagement.
She's freaking terrible at this. She is terrible at this. Oh my goodness, it is just a freaking mess. Here's the last thing that I've got anyway. Is this guy from Telemundo asking her? Yeah.
Right now, we're talking about border security, and there's nobody, no Democrat, talking about pathway to citizenship, and immigration relief, and the benefits that migrants bring to this country.
Oh, but there's no question that migrants bring. America is a country that was built in part by immigrants.
But people are concerned about their TPS, their DACA, we're talking about mass deportations.
I'm not talking about.
What do you stand on mass deportations? What's your stand there?
We need smart, humane immigration policy in America that includes a pathway to citizenship.
Right now.
Okay. Smart answer. Freaking incredible. And she looks at the questioner like he's crazy.
Ming said in reference to her talking about, like, I would never presume to be a doctor. What does she think about the mandated COVID vaccines? Which is exactly right, because, I mean, it's unfortunate that everybody's, like, put completely the whole COVID thing behind them.
I haven't. You haven't. To the people
I know that, but regular Joe off the street is not voting on the basis of COVID lockdowns and vaccine mandates.
I think it's rocket fuel to the inertia of the Trump movement.
Yeah, I feel like it's so forgotten by the average person right now. I don't know. Morgan in the chat says Montante won the KMS debate.
Good.
There was a political debate.
I look forward to watching it. I wouldn't be surprised.
Said landslide. I do think the Minifans lean conservative.
Yes.
Not entirely, but I think lean.
Yes, I do. I just wanted one more preview of what's to come, MSNBC.
A little bit of what the Washington Post found. This is the fake video and then the real man.
I was a student at Mankato West High School in Minnesota. Well, I'm gay, and I realized this when I was 14 years old.
Oh, it's obviously not me. It's the teeth are different, the hair is different, the eyes are different, the nose is different, and the accent is definitely an off-throwing thing. I obviously don't have an foreign accent.
So, in other words, this is Russians are flooding. This is Tom Elliott, flooding the internet with deepfake videos designed to discredit Kamala Harris because they want Donald Trump to win. So here we go again. So if Trump wins, we can start hamstringing right away. Exactly.
Of course. The Labour Party in England is literally trying to deploy campaign volunteers in Pennsylvania, which, by the way, is illegal. And so, I mean, I think because of the global nature of the world, people from foreign countries saying stuff on the internet is not going to go away. We're going to need to learn how to work our political system around that. But we've reached sort of the silly season of the campaign to an extent where, I mean, we talked earlier about the Hitler stuff. They're trying Trump as Hitler for the millionth time, hoping it will stick. I think that was more effective in 2016 than it is today because
he wasn't Hitler.
Because he was president for 4 years and everything was normal.
Right.
And Another attack that I think has backfired is the JD Vance is weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because Tim Walz is like the weirdest person on the planet.
Didn't anybody check that? Didn't anybody check to make sure, like, he's not weirdly flamboyant or anything, right, guys? I just want to check.
But also because JD Vance is like extremely normal. He's like one of the most normal people in politics and the least like bizarre and affected by Washington D.C. He was just on Theo Vaughn, and like a bunch of people were posting all the comments like, this is like the most normal person. Why were they saying he's weird? All this stuff. Because I think that stuff is like really effective. I'm excited for Trump to go on Rogan. I mean, do you think it's like kind of a setup? Like, do you think Rogan wants to take him down? To like prove that he's not a Trump guy?
No, I don't think so at all. I think he wants to talk to him and find out what makes him tick, and find out some stuff that address some of the most controversial things that have been said. Here's a little bit of Theo Vaughn with JD Vance. By the way, Vance's laugh is legit laugh.
You can't even do cocaine in this country anymore, you know? And that seems like a crazy thing to say. And don't say that. Don't say that. But I said it. But yeah. But don't say that anymore. The last one I went to, some dude selling a fucking boat at one of them.
Exactly.
And we're like, you can't, dude. We're trying to get off of drugs, dude. And yeah, and some guys started bidding on the boat. I'm like, and they had made him take it outside. Yeah, because it's outside issues or whatever. Dude, I was in a meeting. Some guy had a fish hook stuck in his freaking cheek, dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Man.
But he had 2 weeks clean.
Yeah. He'd either had a really bad night or a really good night. Maybe both. Jesus.
Yeah, who knows what happened. God dang, it's just like, all right, dude. Catch and release, brother. Catch and release. He probably tried to come across the border.
It's great. It really is.
Yeah, I think that stuff is so positive for the Trump campaign that they've interviewed in so many places. I will say, I do feel like, from what I've seen on all the polling aggregators, that I feel like the Trump momentum, where the race was tightening towards Trump, where Kamala was a favorite for a little bit, and now Trump's kind of a favorite, like just barely 50-50. I feel like that sort of stopped. We're kind of frozen now, and like a poll will be up, a poll will be down, but overall the average is like staying where it is now for a day or two, and it makes me nervous. It's like not. I would like to see him win the popular vote. I would like to see him be up more than it looks like he is right now. I hope the polls are incorrect. I do think going on places like this, going on places like Rogan, that stuff helps. I mean, if you think about it, Rogan's audience is like, I mean, it sounds so wild to say this about a podcaster, but it's like 10% of the country. Like 20 million people listen to Rogan. I've heard people say that he has like 14 million Spotify subscribers. That seems in line with like most of the estimates of his audience I've seen are like around 20 million-ish. So, and of course, a lot of people are going to watch the Trump one in particular because
of course
that's huge. I mean, Kamala might go on too if she's desperate enough.
I thought that she refused. I mean, it matters. I mean, it matters. I don't think Joe wants to see somebody in pain in front of him. But she's not doing 3 hours. There's no way she does 3 hours.
I don't know, but I'm excited / nervous.
Should you do the chatted chat, Albie?
Yeah, I guess we should jump to the chat. Yeah, and then tomorrow we will live stream for everybody. We were thinking, you guys, give us feedback on this. Should we live stream, like when we do the live stream for everybody, should we keep doing it on Rumble but just open it up to everybody? Because we were also thinking about just streaming live on Twitter itself too. Is that better? Like, what do people prefer? I don't know. Throw your answers.
Yeah, but the
Patreon
chat, I guess. People need to get something exclusive, right?
Well, they do all the other days. But we said we were going to 1 day a week open, and we do. We have been on Thursdays having a live stream for everybody, just on Thursdays. It's kind of our last night of the week. But we've been doing it on Rumble, but just not private. But we could do Twitter, too. So, options.
Volume 3 of the Steve Marinac Chat Review, done in a democratic lens to appease Crocodile Dundee in Australia who believes that I'm a Democrat. And Alice, I know it's tough to hear that, but please allow me to say what I need to say without stepping on me, because I know you don't like us Democrats. But on Monday's show, Steve from Merrimack claimed that he went on some trip or anniversary celebration with his quote-unquote wife. Tom, question number one that I have.
Yes.
Do you believe that he had to buy a airline passenger ticket for the blow-up doll, or is it considered a carry-on? I don't know. Inquiring minds want to know.
I don't think I believe he and his wife, who they've been together many years now, both occupied a seat. I don't think. First of all, I don't think that he'd be stupid enough if he was just going with a blow-up doll to buy it a seat. You know, you would deflate that and put it in your carry-on, I think. So no, I think he took an actual human being.
Number two, does anybody believe that story for 1 second? That he talked to a friend or a relative about what Kamala may do as president? I certainly don't believe it. But if you do, and to use a quote from my girl Kamala, who I'm rooting hard for in a couple of weeks, you probably fell out of a coconut tree and landed next to that moron who claimed last week that I don't pay taxes, because allegedly that was something that was said on KMS.
Who said that on ours?
I forget.
Was that like Paul in the car? Maybe.
I think that sounds right.
The heck's that guy talking about? I pay my share of taxes. And number three, again from a Democratic lens, Steve from Merrimack.
By the way, do you remember when it was like down low and disgusting and awful that Harry Reid said that about Mitt Romney?
Mm-hmm.
I have it in good word that he doesn't pay his taxes, and it was out of nowhere. Of course, the news was happy to run with it too. That's like just routine for Trump. That's routine.
Mm-hmm.
Claims that Kamala isn't going to do anything for middle-class Americans or people struggling, and I wonder why that statement wasn't fact-checked by you guys. Because what I would like to know from Steve from Merrimack is, where did Kamala say that she wasn't going to help middle-class or lower-class Americans? Now, me being a hardcore Democrat, I can admit Kamala doesn't say anything at all about anything. So how could this moron say that Kamala won't help anybody when she hasn't said that? I mean, he's just doing this to stoke his own ego. Anyway, thank you so much. I'll be back for Volume 4 shortly. Bye.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Maybe we would put a tiny bit more time restriction on volumes, do you think? Although Steve from Merrimack has one here too, and that's also over 2 minutes. Here's Dr.
There
Cheswick.
were on Twitter several complaints.
Yeah, here's Dr. Cheswick.
Hey, Steve from Merrimack.
Ooh.
That was hilarious about Charles Nelson Riley. I loved your little impression. I wish Alice could have seen Charles Nelson Riley with his smoking a pipe while he was on a game show. Smoking a pipe, Alice, while he was on a game show. You could smoke in TV studios back then. It was amazing.
I think it was compulsory.
Amazing to watch. Oh, hilarious. And that Weird Al Yankovic song, which is kind of a tribute to the White Stripes about Charles Nelson Riley, hilarious.
I don't know it.
I don't know it.
But I love Weird Al. I think he's done some very important work. I do remember smoking everywhere when I smoked. Smoking on airplanes. Like, you'd smoke, and the non-smoking section was like a row ahead.
I missed most of that, but I do remember it as a kid. Like, that restaurants, you could sit in the smoking and the non-smoking section. Like, Friendly's had a smoking and a non-smoking.
We were a better country then. I'm sorry.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
I don't know if you guys are talking about this Atlantic article. Where,
which one?
We didn't get to it today. I started to bring it up, and then you wanted to finish the Kelly stuff first.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, where they claim with zero evidence, like completely fact-free, that Trump called a deceased service member and a bleeping Mexican and refused to pay her funeral costs after saying he would.
Exactly.
And everyone who was there, including the woman's sister, including Mark Meadows, who supposedly was there, like, all say that this didn't happen. The sister said she just voted for Trump, that he was nothing but gracious, that he's loved. It's insane to me that they ran with this story. They're literally in, like, throw spaghetti at the wall mode.
Oh, totally.
They also misattributed Mark Meadows' spokesperson's quote to make it sound like Mark Meadows' spokesperson was saying he wasn't there and didn't hear it, which is such a bizarre thing to do.
And they're like, okay, come up with something even more horrific and mean. What's the meanest thing you come up? Do more. Make
Everything
it meaner.
that they say now at this point reads like fan fiction that they have about Trump. So I guess we're back to this mode, because you remember when like it was all like he's shuffling around the White House in a bathrobe eating Big Macs and like watching gorillas on the Discovery Channel. Do you remember when they were in that whole news cycle? They just like have this imagined version of Trump, and they're like writing their own made up stories about it, and to them and people in their bubble it sounds like totally plausible,
right?
But like nobody else thinks that could have happened.
No.
A-hole reporter levels these falsehoods against Trump about things he said.
This wasn't the reporter, by the way. This is the editor-in-chief who wrote this.
Comment, I'm not going to pay that much for a Mexican BS, all that stuff. And it's amazing that they still think they can get away with this. It reminded me of a time, the 92 election, when it was either 2 weeks or even fewer days before the 92 election. NBC News in prime time had a report about how George H.W. Bush had possibly committed war crimes in World War II.
Oh my goodness!
Because he had allegedly stranded Japanese sailors and pilots in the Pacific Ocean after a boat had been sunk or a plane had been shot down. Zero evidence to prove it, and by all accounts, George H.W. Bush, an American hero.
Yes,
the youngest fighter pilot back then, flew 53 combat missions before he was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
And was nearly killed a couple of times. And they're accusing this guy of committing war crimes with no evidence.
I don't remember that.
And at the time there was, some blowback basically from the print media and the Bush campaign. But what was missing? What were the governors that were missing to the story? One would be Fox News at the time. And the other now would be the internet, and thank God for that. But so this Atlantic story is dead on arrival because of all the information we have. But it still is amazing that they think they can get away with this, and they probably do because a common theme we've been discussing is the silo, how siloed liberal Americans are. So basically they're banking on them not hearing the counterpoint to their BS story. It's just incredible.
It is. Another thing we have now is we have millions and millions of citizen journalists who blow these stories up left and right. Back then, you had maybe Buchanan on the McLaughlin group, maybe shows like that where there's kind of a panel. I don't even know if I guess Buckley wasn't doing Fireline. Maybe he was doing Fireline in '92. I don't even know. But man, yeah. It was just absolutely pathetic. Yeah, you're right. I mean, just
Aaron Burnett, by the way, had to apologize on CNN for reading the made-up, invented Trump quote about a Mexican.
That's a good way to pound it in that it's legit. Is that you get emotional about it.
So, anyway, things are going very well over there. I do caution against overconfidence. I think the race is kind of frozen at 50-50 right now. Hopefully Kamala does more to move the needle in the next few days and weeks, but we can only hope. If you want to join us for live streams and chats every day, you can do that at patreon.com/burnbarrel. Of course, if you like listening for free, burnbarrelpodcast.com, and we'll decide where to do our live streams.